Watching NCN.
A very good afternoon to everyone joining us this afternoon. I am Tiana Jordan, the Advocacy and Communications Officer at ChildLinK Guyana. Welcome to our discussion program where we discuss a number of social issues and various other topics. This afternoon, our discussion will be focused on the impact of peer pressure on adolescents. And of course, this discussion is possible because of our 1000 Boys project, which is fully funded by the delegation of the European Union here in Guyana. And we have with us this afternoon two panelists, two beautiful young ladies. We have Andrea and Denicia. So I'll give them an opportunity now to introduce themselves. So good afternoon once again, Andrea and Denicia. How are you ladies doing this afternoon?
We're doing excellent. Thank you, Tiana, for the opportunity that we can come here, and our thoughts on peer pressure. Thank you very much.
Yes, and for those who are not familiar with you, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Andrea?
Yes, I am Andrea Charles. I am from New Amsterdam, Berbice, and I have two children. I believe that parenting my children is one of the most important thing, right? We need to invest in our children. So I hold, parenting very, high. So I'm also the parenting skill trainer at ChildLinK. So I'm thankful.
Thank you for that. And Denicia.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Denica Henry, and I'm a counselor attached to the Burby CAC, that's the Child Advocacy Center. I've been in this capacity for quite some time now, and it is really a privilege to be working with the ChildLink organization to continuously advocate for child rights and to ensure that our children grow up in better, safer, healthier environments. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to hearing your views on today's topic. We're going to be discussing the impact of peer pressure on adolescents. And, it's normal for young people to worry about fitting in and so on. So peer groups, would play an important role in their lives, particularly during the adolescent stage. So I want to hear from you. What exactly does peer pressure mean? When you hear the term, what exactly does it mean to you? We can go with Denicia first.
So, when I think of the term peer pressure, I'm thinking of persons around my age group encouraging me to try something or to experiment with something, or they're, forcibly trying to encourage me to adopt a new perspective or a way of doing something.
And what about you, Andrea?
Okay, for me, there are two strong words that I would use: influence and persuasion. Influence and persuasion. I believe that peer pressure is the influence or the persuasion that person within one's age group, so you have to be like about the same age, social group, right? Exert on him or her that causes them to behave in a way or engage in activities that they would not otherwise engage in. So that's my thought on peer pressure.
Okay, thank you for that. And well, peer pressure, we know that it can be both positive and negative. Can you give some examples to differentiate between the two, between positive and negative peer pressure?
Okay, so first of all, positive peer pressure. Um, Positive peer pressure, it helps for growth and development. Is something, something that one would actually encourage you to do good, right? For example, let's say my friend is encouraging me to, you know, or motivating me rather to study my schoolwork. I'm going to school and they're encouraging me to study my schoolwork. So that is one example of positive peer pressure. They're actually encouraging me in the right way. And for negative, I'm not sure. Are you going to the negative? No.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, so for negative peer pressure, I would think that it is something that actually, helps your self-esteem to go down, right? Your self-esteem to go down when your friend encourage you in something bad rather than good, right? And then it makes you become antisocial, right? You get antisocial behavior, and some example of negative peer pressure would be like the peer influencing you to use alcohol, or for some girls, they might influencing you into sexual activities. Thank you.
Okay, and Denicia, would you like to add to that? Maybe echo what Andrea would have said?
Yes, I agree with the points that Andrea would have raised. And also, another example would be persons encouraging you to get with the trend of, getting on TikTok. Because you find nowadays a lot of young children feel the need to get a phone because they need to be in the know. They need to know what's happening on social media, keep up to breast with the latest gossip and tabloids and so on, and also to be on TikTok to see these trends. Now, having a phone in emergency cases is really good, of course, and if you use it wisely, then that is even more encouraged. But if you're going to be using a phone that you have because you want to keep in contact with someone that you might be sharing an intimate relationship with or developing an intimate relationship with. Now, that is something that I think would come on negative peer pressure because you should not be pressured by your peers, whether by a group or by any individual, to, disobey your parents and to get a device, even if they say not to, because some children go on to get phones behind their parents' back. They're given it by somebody who might express interest in them. And this starts to develop a series of untrustworthy behavior.
Thanks for sharing that. And also, we know that, when it comes to negative peer pressure, it can affect children or adolescents to an extent. What are some of the drawbacks of negative peer pressure? And, is the effect that it have on boys and girls different? Would Andrea like to go first?
Okay, some of the drawbacks I would say, especially for boys, it would allow them to, get themselves into deviant behaviors, right? Also, it's not good. The negative one, it is not good for their mental health. Eventually, they're going to suffer from mental issues, right? So those are some drawback I would suggest. And how are they different? With boys, like I mentioned, they're more like into criminal, they would be encouraged more into criminal activity, while the girls, they would be more into, sexual activity, more encouraged to go on the sexualized side, because the society look at women, more in the sexualized side.
Okay.
I would say that negatively for boys, you find that they it depends on their circumstances as well, but there is often during the teenage stage um, a great difficulty among young people and their parents to understand each other because communication is affected. It's something that is even greater in Caribbean households, Guyanese households. But I see now that some persons are trying to work on that. However, if you go down this path of negative peer pressure where you start to smoke, you start to drink, um, you start to get involved in activities that you shouldn't, then it's going to cause great distress. One, two, financial burdens. Three, it is going to affect your education because I can tell you, illiteracy is not attractive. And if you drop out of school because your friends are encouraging you to skulk, your friends are encouraging you, oh, let's go to the back dam, let's go to the shop, let's go to, swim, something of the sort. You start doing it one time, two time, and then you realize that you're skipping school more often than you should. For girls, there's a lot of promiscuous behavior that they might start to showcase and exhibit. There are also going to be some that might develop hypersexuality and feel the need because of a missing father or because of early sexual contact, feel the need to have somebody else's validation. So if that means that that is coming from an older individual or older gentleman or a man, who uses them for the sake of sex and they feel that that trade off is the same as love, then that creates a very low self esteem and teenage pregnancy, as well as continuous cycle of poverty, because those children, those boys and girls, regardless, would not have taken their education seriously, might not have done well in their exams, and they're now in a position in which they're going to be struggling to financially cater for children that they did not plan for.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. And also, what do you think, would push adolescents or teenagers to, like pressure their peers into doing negative stuff, negative activities? Denesia, would you like to go first?
I think different persons might have a different field on certain things. Some might think that, they can't go it alone. They need company to do something. Um, Others might feel that they can because they have that sort of influence. Some persons have an early exposure to some sort of power, some level of power. So by having that taste of power, they start to exert it on their friends. And also you find that some are just bullies. Some persons are really just bullies who pick on not younger, who pick on weaker persons and feel that they can bully them into doing something. And you find that happening a lot, especially with children that have lower self-esteem. It's easier for them to be bullied and picked on.
Your thoughts on this?
Okay. Yeah. Well, the peer pressure, the age is like between the teenage age, right? The teenage age, and that is when they are actually vulnerable. And what can actually contribute to these things is the environment where they would have been brought up. The environment can contribute to their action. Maybe they grew up in let's say a poor home, right? So it actually forces them to, follow other company. Maybe there are other, boys or girls who are into drugs, and they feel as though that because of the environment and how they were brought up, it pushes them to actually get involved in, or be pressured to do the things that the other peers are doing.
To this stage of adolescence, it's a very challenging stage for anybody going through it. There's a lot of changes that children would be going through with their bodies, mentally, and so on. Mental health wise, there's a lot of changes and a lot of challenges that they'll be going through that will push them towards. Uh, Fallen into the trap of negative peer pressure and so on. How can they cope with these challenges that they're going to be going through during their adolescent stage to not, fall into that trap by being pressured negatively by their peers?
I think, right? I think first of all, it comes from the parent. It comes from the parent, the teaching, the communication, the level of communication, whether the parents are open. They can actually help their child, listen to them because, like I, would have said that it's a vulnerable stage that they're in, and Eric Erickson, he would have pointed out that it's identity versus identity confusion, where they're actually getting to know who they really are. They don't know who they are, so they're trying to figure out who they are. But for me, I think that parents, once they're open, to their children, it could actually help them not to get involved in peer pressure or being pressured. They would have to constantly be communicating with their child and showing them what are the consequences of some of these things and so on, so that they can know that they should not be involved in such.
You brought up the importance of communication. Denicia, is there anything else you would like to add? Maybe something, a different point of view?
Well, of course, I agree with Andrea. Communication with your parents, your environment does play a very key role. And what I will say is that persons need to understand that children learn by seeing. They're like sponges. Actually, they are sponges. They absorb whatever is happening around them. So, for example, while I was growing up, um, I grew up with women that were extremely prayerful. Sundays you had to try and go to church, or whenever a problem came up in the family, my mother, my grandmother, they would sing, they would listen to their hymns.
Denicia? Okay, all right. We lost Denicia there. Andrea, I'd like to know, like, to how can we get these teenagers, these adolescents, to understand the extent to which they can be negatively impacted by peer pressure? Because some of them might be like, their friends are trying to get them to do something, and they know that it's gonna affect them in a bad way, but they'll be like, oh, I still want to try it. So how can we get them to understand the extent to which they can be harmed or negatively affected?
Okay, so oftentimes the problem of getting children to understand the negative effects of peer pressure is the problem of wanting to bend the tree when it's hard, right? And as I like to go to the parental one. So for some reason, as parents, we should try to train them from small, so that we can actually understand the extent to which it would negatively affect peer pressure, right? So we should actually train them from small, rather than wait until they get old and training them some of the things that they needed to know when they're little.
Yes, and you also work with a lot of parents on a daily basis. Can you like give an example of like some concerns parents would probably bring forward or so on as it relates to peer pressure? Has there been any such case that you've had to deal with?
Yes, I remember. I remember one parent. She said that her child doesn't listen to her. The child like to go with friends and so on, no matter how much she talk. Of course, I encourage her that she need to be open, because some parents are so locked up, and they're very judgmental, I should say, towards their children. And whenever someone is judgmental, then you don't want to really be open to that parent. So in that way, I encourage her. Another thing is that what I told her is that rather than allowing there are ways that we can actually help them. Just listen to them. If my son or my daughter, let's say, wants to have friends, it's fine, right? It's fine. And there we can actually help them to solve that problem by inviting the friends over to my home, right? So in that way I know who my son or daughter is interacting, is being friend with, because sometimes some of them may have bad friend. But should you tell them not to have friend? You can't really, at that age, you can't really tell them that you shouldn't go out, you shouldn't do this. So in order, you got to find other ways and means to actually help them, rather than telling them, no, don't go here, don't go there. But you have to, it's not dealing with the teenage stage is not the same as dealing with the little ones. It's totally different, right? So, and I think that it is smart to actually invite the friends over, so that you're seeing who your child or children are with, rather than they're out of your sight, you can't really trust them, and so on. So you invite them over so that they can be a part of the family. And so if that does, you giving them option, if that doesn't work, then you go with them, and drop them off and be nice as a parent among them, and maybe wait on them wherever they want to go, rather than so you have to give your child option, when you're trying to help them away from being pressured against the bad things. So you're trying to be there for them as a support and a help to them.
Okay, right. And of course, parents, they are basically the most influential person in their child's life. Their children are going to be looking up to them. They need to set examples and so on. Like you mentioned before, when it comes to this, communication plays a major, major role. Um, what are some more things that, parents can do in order to help tackle negative peer pressure?
um, Okay, what are some of the things that they can do? Like I mentioned, I might be repeating myself, I hope not. But like I say, that they need to be open, they need to be non-judgmental. Sorry, they need not to judge, they need to listen. Listen to your child whenever they're telling you things, and don't just wait for they say a word or two words and you're ready to snap at them or jump at them. Just listen to them, because children, they like to feel when they are valued, when you as parent can just listen to them, right? But if you are judgmental, then there wouldn't be any way that that child would actually want to come and listen to you, what you have to say. Or even if you want, um, if they want an advice, they wouldn't see you as somebody capable enough, even though you are the parent. And that shouldn't be, because like you mentioned earlier, that parents are their role model. They're the first teacher, so they should be the guide. They should be the guide for that child.
Definitely. And also, when it comes to parenting, I think one of the important thing for parents to do is to ask for help also, because, parenting can be such a challenging job and they may not know it all, especially when they're experiencing these kind of challenges with their children and so on. So I encourage parents to, reach out, ask for help, maybe a friend, maybe someone that is close to you, that you can feel comfortable sharing some of the issues you're going through with your children. I see Denicia is back. Can you hear me, Denicia? All
It's
right.
frozen. Yeah.
Yes, she's frozen again. So Andrea, we know that as children get older, it's natural for them to, let's say, want more freedom to do certain things and so on, and they will probably reach a point in time where they'll be turning to their peers for advice rather than turn to their parents and so on. How can parents still allow that child to be a little more independent, but still be there to guide them when they need it and so on?
Okay, first of all, they have to learn to trust the child. Trust is an important thing, and they have to, know that when they go out, that, they're able to take care of themselves, right? So you trust them enough so that they know that they can take, mommy or daddy trust me, and you also have to train them, right? Teach them about or educate them about certain things. Educate them that drugs are not good. Being involved in sexual activity at an early age. So you tell them, you talk to them, and you trust them more so. You trust them so that they can make decision, and whatever decision that they make, it's all about choices. I would say all about choices and consequences. So you could actually show them, if you make this choice, well, this is the consequence of it. So in the long run, they would have to know to themselves, if I want to choose to do it or not, because mommy and daddy, they're teaching me, what the consequences are. So I think trust and just allow them to make, independent choices, and also teach them about the consequences too, choices that they would be making.
That's definitely right. And also, because they'll be spending a lot of time in school and so on, their teachers will also, be playing a major part in their lives. And how can we, no, how can teachers rather help children to navigate school life, without conforming to the negativity of peer pressure? What role can teachers play when it comes to this?
Because the children, they're there most of the time, they're in school, they must reach out to teachers. However, teachers should be trained to be confident. Think they should be trained to be confident, and be a counselor to the student, not judge them also, but listening, giving a listening ears to whatever they're going through, because you never know that you can make a difference in the peers life, the teenager life, right? So just be a confident and be a counselor as a teacher to those children.
Definitely. And also, I want to hear from you now what advice, you would give to children so that they can be better able to choose the right people to, be their friends, be their peers. Also, how should they go about avoiding bad influence?
Okay. Okay. So I want to bring back the point that I mentioned earlier, that there is consequences to choices. So children need to understand that our life is made up of choices we make, and choices have consequences, right? So you want to do these things that will impact your child. You want that will impact them positively, right? So you don't want them to do things that you will regret later. So you know you got to tell them, they have to know that their individuality, they can make choices for themselves. They don't have to depend on someone. You don't have to depend on someone to make choices for you, right? And not everyone that smiles with you tries to befriend you or so on. You has They have the best interest in you. So not everyone that smile with you has the best interest in you. So tell them that they need to be careful, right? They need to be careful and take example, the insecticide spray. I would like to say this is like, the insecticide spray has a picture of flies and cockroaches on the tin, but what is inside is not good for the flies and cockroaches. So you got to know your true friends. They are the ones who will encourage you to do good things. So that is what I would like to tell.
Definitely, that's really some good advice there for children. It's a bit difficult sometimes to choose people to, you want to spend your time with, persons can be really, they can be two-faced, just to put it that way. So children, they have to know, they have to be able to determine if this person is going to be a bad influence to them, how is this person going to impact their life in a positive way, and so on. So when it comes to peer pressure, they definitely need to know the both the positive aspects of it and the negative aspects. They need to know the extent to which they can be affected if they decide to go down the negative road, and so on. And Andrea, I want to thank you for taking the time out this afternoon for this discussion. I know we lost Denise here along the way. She apologizes. She's having some issue with her internet this afternoon. We all know that can happen. So, yes, Andrea, thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap things up this afternoon?
Um, I would just like to enforce probably what I said, as parents out there who might be listening, or looking at the program, I would like to encourage you to, be there, support your child as much as you can, right? Sometimes you may not like the behavior they have, but you have to be patient and you have to continually, communicating with them so that you can have a happy, healthy, and successful child in the end. So thank you very much. Thank you, Tiana, for having me on this program.
Yes, you're welcome. And of course, I do look forward to chatting with you again sometime in the future. And you continue to do the good work that I know you've been doing. Yes.
Thank you,
And
Tiana.
with that being said, I want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in to listen to today's discussion. We were exploring the impact to which adolescents can be affected by peer pressure. My name is Tiana Jordan. I'm the Advocacy and Communications Officer at ChildLinK. And this discussion is possible because of our 1000 Voice project, which is funded by the Delegation of the European Union here in Guyana. Once again, a very good afternoon to you, and goodbye.